Our next conversation today is with Democratic Congressman Jason Crow of Aurora. Congressman Crow, thanks for coming back to Next.
Kyle, good to be on with you again.
You were the lead Democrat on the congressional panel that investigated the multiple assassination attempts against now President-elect Donald Trump. In that investigation, do you think the Secret Service has been honest with both Congress and the American public about their failings?
I do believe the Secret Service has been honest. And listen, I had just as many questions as everybody. Every Coloradan, every American deserves to know that their elected officials and our elections will be protected and won't be decided by bullets, that it's decided at the ballot box. And went into this knowing that we had to get answers to those questions. So we pushed them hard, but we actually found the Secret Service to be nothing but open and transparent and forthcoming. I can't say that for every agency. There were some problems in getting some information from the DOJ and the FBI related to the motives of the gunmen. But with respect to the actual organizational structures, the failures, and the actions of agencies in the Secret Service, we did get to the bottom of it.
You would be in a better position to know than most Americans. Do you know why that young man in Pennsylvania tried to kill Donald Trump?
Well, Kyle, that's the one area that we didn't get the information that we would have liked to have received. The focus of our investigation, the mandate of our task force, was to look at government agencies and departments and organizational and structural failures. So the Secret Service and Homeland Security, what they did and didn't do, and the failings of those agencies and the leadership of those agencies. We accomplished that mission, and our 180-page report is a full accounting of the entire story of what happened, and we've made numerous recommendations for how to fix those problems. We did also look into the motives of the gunmen in this case, and that is one area where unfortunately we didn't get the information from the FBI and the DOJ because it's an ongoing criminal investigation. Now, my view is, as every member of Congress will tell you, that Congress has overall oversight authority, that there's nothing that we can't ask for, that we can't receive or shouldn't be given. So we're having that dispute and that disagreement with DOJ as we have in the past.
Lastly on this, Donald Trump and his allies often paint a narrative that there's a secret deep state that wants ill for him. Did you see any evidence that there was anybody in the Secret Service, FBI, or other law enforcement that wanted to allow Donald Trump to be harmed?
No evidence whatsoever, and I'm really glad you asked me that question because there are plenty of conspiracy theories and people going down the rabbit hole here. Listen, this was a bipartisan investigation. I think this is really important to state. It was an investigation that was convened by the Republicans, although completely supported by every Democrat and every Republican in the House. So I worked hand in glove with the Republican chairman, Mike Kelly, who represents Butler, Pennsylvania. We worked really well together, and honestly, this was the most bipartisan and productive venture that I've been in my time of Congress, actually. And in a bipartisan way, we found no evidence of any type of conspiracy or government involvement. What happened was people didn't do their job. And there were failings, and there were a cascading series of failings that are troubling in and of itself, and we're going to make sure it's fixed. But there's no other theory or conspiracy going on here.
I want to turn to some other issues that are in the news. President-elect Trump has talked openly about jailing members of Congress who investigated the January 6th insurrection. You also investigated Trump's actions as an impeachment manager. Do you think he may try to put you in prison?
Well, I hope not, Kyle. I sure hope not. Listen, I'm a member of Congress. I'm a member of the United States Congress, the Article I branch of the Constitution. Our founders made us the Article I branch because we are the preeminent branch. We are empowered by the people. We are directly elected by the people. We have the authority of the people of this nation. And I will never be afraid. I will never be bullied. People should know that by now. Coloradans should know me by reputation. I don't run scared, and I'm not going to run from a fight. There's no doubt about that. So, Donald Trump's going to do what he's going to do. He lies constantly. He threatens. He bullies. But I have never been bullied in my entire life, and I sure as heck am not going to start in the next year.
There's reporting suggesting the Biden administration is at least having some conversations about sweeping pardons for people they believe might be targets of political retribution by Trump and his allies. Would you accept a presidential pardon if it was offered to you to protect you from retaliation?
Oh, I don't think anyone's thinking about pardoning me, and I don't think I'm the target of any of those investigations. So I think the pardon authority has to be narrowly tailored, and I think we have to avoid conflicts of interest in the pardon authority. In fact, I've called for reform of pardon authority to prevent the types of abuses that we saw in the first Trump administration, of which there were many, and we're going to see them in the second Trump administration. There's no doubt in my mind that they are going to abuse pardon authority. They're going to abuse their power, but that's my job, to sit here and to conduct oversight and to push back against those abuses, and that's just not going to change.
You also took issue with President Joe Biden's pardon of his son, Hunter. He joined a bipartisan list of presidents who have pardoned family members, but in this case, Joe Biden said he was not going to pardon his son, and then he chose to do it. Do you have specific pardon reform that you want to see that would limit presidential powers, or is this just something that's going to be talked about? Is anything going to get moved on this?
I did disagree with that pardon. Listen, I'm a straight shooter, Kyle. I like to call balls and strikes on things, and I think Coloradans should know that when I'm calling somebody out or critiquing, that I'm not playing politics. And you know that I'm going to sit here in the next Trump administration, and I know I'm going to have plenty of problems with this administration, and I'm going to call those balls and strikes, and I'm going to call them out. But I disagreed with the pardon of the president's son, and he certainly made promises not to do that. So what I would like to see is I'd like to see more restrictions on the use of that authority by the president. I'd like to see conflict of interest reform, right? So I don't have a bill necessarily that outlines an entire comprehensive pardon reform. That's not what I'm spending my time doing. I'm focusing a lot more on Colorado issues and lowering costs and protecting Space Command and the things that are really important to Coloradans. But I do think in any instance, what's important is that when there's a conflict of interest, that somebody removes themselves from that conflict of interest so that Coloradans and Americans know that when a power is being used, when the power of the government is being used, it's being used in the best interest of the people.
President-elect Trump says the largest deportation in American history will begin in your congressional district in Aurora, Colorado. Could you be specific for us? Who should be deported, in your view, and who should be left alone even though they are in this country without legal permission?
Well, I'm taking really seriously Donald Trump's threats to conduct a mass deportation. And we have to be really, really clear about what we're talking about here, right? I support deporting violent criminals, right? This notion that somehow we oppose the deportation of violent criminals, that's hogwash. That's never been the case. If someone's a threat to the community, a threat to families, and if they're a violent person, they should be prosecuted, they should be deported, and guess what? That is the law now, and that's currently what happens. We have to talk about resourcing of that. We have to talk about broader immigration reform, which is a part of the discussion. But what Donald Trump is saying he's going to do, and this has been verified by the people he has appointed, Homan, Stephen Miller, and others, is they're going to round up families, they're going to round up law-abiding people in our community, children, people paying taxes, people owning businesses, people working in our community, and en masse deport them. That would gut our economy, that would gut our communities, and frankly, deporting American children, even children who are citizens of the country, is immoral, and I will not stand for it. So you can count on me to resist that if that's what they end up doing.
When you say resist, what does that practically mean? There's a lot of people at the local, state, and federal level figuring out what that would mean. What stumbling blocks could you put in the way of a Trump administration if they go to deport, say, families or people here illegally who have not committed crimes?
Well, as a member of Congress, we have the power of the purse. That's our preeminent authority. Now we're in the minority, so there are limits to that. But there are still ways to use that power of appropriation, the power of the purse, to restrict what people can do. Second, we have oversight authority. So I have pushed really hard to increase congressional oversight authority over immigration and detention and border patrol facilities. So you better bet that I'm going to show up. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be looking firsthand at what's happening and make sure that they are following the law and they are consistent with the values of our community. And then the third is an education role. Right? One of the important things that we're going to have to do going forward here is making sure people have access to legal counsel, that they know what their rights are, and we separate fact from fiction. There's going to be a lot of disinformation in this Trump administration coming up, a lot of false information. So making sure we're putting out good information that people can rely on and that they know their rights and they know what recourses they have to protect their families and to protect our children.
Congressman Crow, one final question for you on a different topic. A lot has been talked about with the proposed new Pentagon leadership, but an issue that I have not seen discussed, I'm curious what you think about it. President-elect Trump has nominated Pete Hegseth, a veteran like yourself, and a Fox News personality to lead the Pentagon. Based on what has been publicly reported about Pete Hegseth's excessive drinking and marital infidelity, do you think that he could get a security clearance if he was a rank-and-file member of the U.S. military?
Well, I'm doubtful of that. I don't know specifically because we still haven't had the hearings, right? The FBI hasn't done the full background check on Pete Hegseth. There haven't been Senate hearings, so that is the process that needs to happen. But listen, there are so many concerns that I have about this nominee. Number one, he's inexperienced. Now, you don't have to have run an organization or run the Department of Defense before to be able to do it. But this is America's largest department, 3.5 million employees, 2 million of whom are service members in uniform, an $800 billion budget. We are deployed in 70 different places around the world, and every single day those men and women make life and death decisions. So this is not an entry-level job. And then on top of it, Pete Hegseth has said repeatedly that women shouldn't be in combat roles. So Kyle, when we're sitting here having this conversation right now in the comfort of our offices, there are women downrange putting their lives on the line for this country. And the message from this man that they are not worthy or able to serve in the roles that they're serving in right now, defending us, is simply just beyond the pale. And then you add on top of it the abuse allegations. So no, I don't think this is a nominee that should pass any muster, certainly running our Department of Defense.
Congressman Jason Crow of Aurora, thank you very much for your time. Look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks, Kyle.